And my nose hurts. Eh. Okay, hold on a sec. Can you hear me? Probably can't. Let me check. Alright, it's been quite some time, and I'm not using my best mouse right now. Okay, can you now hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, just making sure like it's like an echo for me right now, so that's why I'm trying to do this. Okay, so hello YouTube. Yes, he's back. Yeah, you saw me. If you saw me earlier, I was talking about the video. Now I don't know how this will go, but I'm gonna try to see if I can pull up the title for this. I just want to view an image. Let me view my image. Eh? Thank you. All I want. Click on this. I'm not using my favorite mouse today, and that's annoying me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this image. It's showing it. I don't know. I can't even see it. Duh. I'm going to do this. I'm going to same image. Sorry, I have hiccups. I'm going to do... what am I going to do? Okay. I do this. And hmm. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Eee, that did not work. What am I doing? No, my background disappeared again. Not what I want. Put it back into my Sherlock Holmes background, please. Thank you. Okay, that's not gonna work. Frick. What am I doing? What am I gonna do? Okay, fine. I'll do it the hard way. Wait. I could email it to myself. Let's see if that works. Yes, I email myself. Okay, I have documents that I have to send. This. Send to myself. And then one subject. And touch it. Touch this. We'll get there in a moment. Because, I don't care. I don't care if I don't have, like, I want to open that, and then that looks better. To me, it does. Okay, so we're going to open this. Share that. Hopefully y'all can see it. I think y'all can see it. Let me know in the comments below if you can see it. Actually, it might help if I actually pull it up. Un momento. Un momento, por favor. I need to pull up something. Yay, I got it. Who keeps sending? I'm not gonna. Okay, so you guys can hear me? Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I'm not showing the right thing, apparently. Pull this out. Did I pull out the right image? I think I did. Right? Pull that out. Okay. Sorry, I'm pulling up the wrong image. Yee! Technical issues today. Look for that. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we should be fine. Sorry, I'm just trying to like balance this out here, you know, where I have the chat bar pulled out correctly. Okay, now I can get started. Now I can get this started. Yeah, I hear you. Comment below if you hear my voice. Comment below if you hear me. You should be able to hear me good. I don't know. All right, so yeah, this is going down. I'm yelling timber. Okay, okay. Hold on. Let me see if I can post this to a couple of my friends here. Give me a moment. Un momento. This. Don't judge me right now. Pardon my voice also. My nose is bugging me. Here. I'm gonna paste this. My friend should be getting a URL. That's from me. Yeah, okay. I think we're ready. I think we are ready. Okay, dokie. Where did my chat bar go? Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay, now we can get started. Okay, so as you see the title, it says The Girl Who Drank the Moon. So I felt like I had this epiphany. Yes, I actually can have an epiphany for once. To do like those authors do when they have a book up and they read it via computer. Now, part of my allergies right now, it's just terrible, and I don't know if they mowed or something, but fresh lawn seems to mess with my allergies right now, so my voice is more nasally, I think. Then again, it could be just me. Okay, so let's get started before I forget what I'm doing here. It's like 9 o'clock, and I was supposed to do this at 8. I'm an idiot. All right, so can't clear my throat. The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. So I'm only doing one chapter per video. So yeah, because I think the first chapter might be shorter. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, for Ted with love. I don't know who that is, but okay. The reason I wanted to read the story though is because this book was really cool, and I'm already like into chapter 11 already, and I just got it. So it's really, well, actually I got it yesterday, but I just started reading it today, so I've gotten to 11 chapters already. And yeah, I guess it's not that thick of a book, but I like it. It's really good. Okay, so chapter 1, in which a story is told. Yes, there is a witch in the woods. There's always been a witch. Will you stop your fidgeting for once? My stars, I have never seen such a fidgety child. No, sweetheart, I have not seen her. No one has, not for ages. We've taken steps so that we will never see her again. Don't make me say it. You already know anyway. Oh, I don't know, darling. No one knows why she wants children. We don't know why she insists that it all must always be the very youngest among us. It's not as though we could just ask her. She hasn't been seen. We'll make sure that she will not be seen. Of course she exists. What a question. Look at the woods. So dangerous. Poisonous smoke and sinkholes and boiling geysers and terrible dangers every which way. Do you think it is so by accident? Rubbish. It was the witch, and if we don't do as she says, what will become of us? You really need me to explain it? I'd rather not. Oh, hush now, don't cry. It's not as though the Council of Elders is coming for you now, is it? You're far too old. From our family? Yes, dearest, ever so long ago, before you were born. He was a beautiful boy. Now finish your supper and see you to your chores. We'll all be up early tomorrow. The day of sacrifice waits for no one, and we must all be present to thank the child who will save us for one more year. Your brother? How could I fight for him? If I had, the witch would have killed us all. And then where would we be? Sacrifice one or sacrifice all? That is the way of the world. We couldn't change if we tried. Enough questions. Off with you. Fool child. All right, so I'm gonna read maybe the second chapter because that was a pretty short chapter. So, pardon me. I need to drink a Coca-Cola. Need some Coca-Cola on me. Okay. Chapter 2, in which an unfortunate woman goes quite mad. Grand Elder Gerlin took his time that morning. The day of the sacrifice only came once a year, after all, and he liked to look his best during the sober procession to the cursed house and during the somber retreat. He encouraged the other elders to do the same. It was important to give the populace a show. He carefully dabbed rouge on his sagging cheeks and lined his eyes with thick streaks of coal. He checked his teeth in the mirror, ensuring they were free of debris or goop. He loved that mirror. It was the only one in the protectorate. Nothing gave Gerlin more pleasure than the possession of a thing that was unique unto him. He liked being special. The Grand Elder had ever so many possessions that were unique in the protectorate. It was one of the perks of the job. The protectorate, called the Ketail Kingdom by some and the City of Sorrows by others, was sandwiched between a treacherous forest on one side and an enormous bog on the other. Most people in the protectorate drew their livelihoods from the bog. There was a future in bog walking. Mothers told their children. Of a future, if you understand, but it was better than nothing. The bog was full of zerin shoots in the spring and zerin flowers in the summer and zerin bulbs in the fall, in addition to a wide array of medicinal and borderline magical plants that could be harvested, prepared, treated, and sold to the traders from the other side of the forest, who in turn transported the fruits of the bog to the free cities far away. The forest itself was terribly dangerous and navigable only by the road. The elders owned the road, which is to say that Grand Elder Gerland owned the road, and the other elders had their cut. The elders owned the bog too, and the orchards, and the houses, and the market squares, even the garden plots. This was why the families of the protectorate made their shoes out of reeds. This was why, in lean times, they fed their children the thick, rich broth of the bog, hoping that the bog would make them strong. This was why the elders in their families grew big and strong and rosy-cheeked on beef and butter and beer. The door knocked. "Enter," Grand Elder Gerlin mumbled as he adjusted the drape of his robe. It was Antane, his nephew, an elder in training, but only because Gerland, in the moment of weakness, had promised the ridiculous boy's more ridiculous mother. But that was unkind. Antane was a nice enough young man, nearly 13. He was a hard worker and a quick study. He was good with numbers and clever with his hands and could build a comfortable bench for a retired elder as quick as breathing. And despite himself, Gerland had developed an inexplicable and growing fondness for the boy. But Anton had big ideas, grand notions, and questions. Gerland furrowed his brow. Anton was, how could he put it, overly keen. If this kept up, he'd have to be dealt with, blood or no. The thought of it weighed upon Gerland's heart like a stone. "Uncle Gerland!" Anton nearly bellowed his uncle over with his insufferable enthusiasm. "Calm yourself, boy," the elder snapped. This is a solemn occasion. The boy calmed visibly, his eager, dog-like face tilted toward the ground. Gerlin resisted the urge to pat him gently on the head. I have been sent, Anton continued in a mostly soft voice, to tell you that the other elders are ready, and all the populace waits along the route. Everyone is accounted for. Each one. There are no shirkers. After last year, I doubt there ever will be again, Anson said with a shudder. Pity. Gerlin checked his mirror again, touching up his rouge. He rather enjoyed teaching the occasional lesson to the citizens of the Protectorate. It clarified things. He tapped the sagging folds under his chin and frowned. Well, nephew, he said with an artful swish of his robes, one that he had taken over a decade to perfect. Let us be off. That baby isn't going to sacrifice itself after all. And he flowed into the street with Entang stumbling at his heels. Normally, the day of sacrifice came and went with all the pomp and gravity that it ought. The children were given over without protest. Their numb families mourned in silence, with pots of stew and nourishing foods heaped into their kitchens, while the comforting arms of neighbors circled around them to ease their remembrance. Normally, no one broke the rules, but not this time. Grand Elder Gerlin pressed his lips into a frown. He could hear the mothers howling before the procession turned onto the final street. The citizens began to shift uncomfortably where they stood. When they arrived at the family's house, an astonishing sight met the council of elders. A man with a scratched-up face and a swollen lower lip and bloody bald spots across his skull, where his hair had been torn out in clumps, met them at the door. He tried to smile, but his tongue went instinctively to the gap where a tooth had just recently been. He sucked in his lips and attempted to bow instead. I'm sorry, sir, said the man. The father, presumably. I don't know what has gotten into her. It's like she's gone mad. From the rafters above them, a woman screeched and howled at the elders as the elders entered the house. Her black, shiny hair flew about her head like a nest of long, withering snakes. She hissed and spat like a cornered animal. She clung to the ceiling beams with one arm and one leg, while holding a baby tightly against her breast with the other arm. Get out, she screamed. I spit on your faces and curse your names. Leave my home at once, or I shall tear out your eyes and throw them to the crows. The elders stared at her, open-mouthed. They couldn't believe it. No one fought for a doomed child. It simply wasn't done. Entang alone began to cry. He did his best to hide it from the adults in the room. Gerlin, thinking fast, fixed a kindly expression on his craggy face. He turned his palms toward the mother to show her that he meant no harm. He gritted his teeth behind his smile. All this kindness was nearly killing him. We are not taking her at all, my poor misguided girl, Gerlin said in his most patient voice. The witch is taking her. We are simply doing as we are told. The mother made a gurgle sound deep in her chest like an angry bear. Gerlin laid his hand upon the shoulder of the perplexed husband and gave a gentle squeeze. It appears, my good fellow, that you are right. Your wife has gone mad. He did his best to cover his rage with a facade of concern. A rare case, of course, but not without precedent. Compassion. She needs care. Liar, the woman spat. The child began to cry, and the woman climbed even higher, putting each foot on a parallel rafters and bracing her back against the slope of the roof, trying to position herself in such a way that she could remain out of reach while she nursed the baby. If you take her, she said with a growl, I will find her. I will find her and take her back. You see if I won't. And face the witch? Gerlin laughed. All on your own? Dick lost soul. His voice was honey, but his face was a glowing ember. Lose your senses? The shock has shattered your poor mind. No matter. We shall heal you. dear, as best as we can." He snapped his fingers, and armed guards poured into the room. They were a special unit, provided as always by the Sisters of the Star. They wore bows and arrows slung across their backs, and short, sharp swords sheathed in their belts. Their long braided hair looped around their waists, where it was cinched tight, a testament to their years of contemplation and combat training at the top of the tower. Implacable as stones, and the elders, despite their power and stature, edged away from them. The sisters were a frightening force, not to be trifled with. "Remove the child from the lunatic's clutches, and escort the poor dear to the tower," Gerlin ordered. He glared at the mother in the rafters, who had gone suddenly very pale. "I know what to do with broken minds, my dear. I'm sure it hardly hurts at all." The guard was efficient, calm, and utterly ruthless. The mother didn't stand a chance. Within moments, she was bound, hobbled, and carried away. Her howls echoed through the silent town, ending suddenly when the tower's great wooden door slammed shut, locking her inside. The baby, on the other hand, once transferred into the arms of the Grand Elder, whimpered briefly and then turned her attention to the sagging face in front of her. Creases and folds. She had a sullen look to her, calm, skeptical, and intense, making it difficult for Gerlin to look away. She had black curls and black eyes, luminous skin like polished amber. In the corner of her forehead, in the center of her forehead, she had a birthmark in the shape of a crescent moon. The mother had a similar mark. Common lore insisted that such people were special, or, as a general rule, and he certainly disliked it when citizens of the Protectorate got it in their heads to think themselves better than they were. Leaning in close, wrinkling his brow. Horrible child, Gerlin thought. With all the ceremony could muster, it is time. The baby chose this particular moment to let loose a large, warm, wet stain across the front of Gerlin's robes. Noticed, but inwardly he fumed. She had done it on purpose. He was sure of it. What a revolting baby. The procession was, as usual, somber, slow, and insufferably plodding. Mad with impatience. Gates closed behind them, though, and the citizens returned with their melancholy broods of children to their drab little homes. The elders quickened their pace. "But why are we running, Uncle?" Acton asked. And hissed. "And keep up." No one liked being in the forest, away from the road. Not even the elders. Not even Gerland. The area just outside the protectorate walls was safe enough, in theory, but everyone knew someone who had accidentally wandered too far. Or stepped in a mud pot, boiling off most of their skin, or wandered into a swale where the air was bad and never returned. The forest was dangerous. A winding trail to a small hollow surrounded by 5 ancient trees. Handmaidens. Or 6. Didn't it used to be 5? Gerlin glared at the trees, counted them again, and shook his head. There were 6. No matter. The forest was just getting to him. Those trees were almost as old as the world, after all. The ring of the trees was mossy and soft, and the elders laid the child upon it, doing their best not to look at her. On the baby, and started to hurry away, when their youngest member cleared his throat. "We just leave her here?" Anton asked. "That's how it's done?" "Yes, nephew," Gerlin said. He felt a sudden wave of fatigue settling on his shoulders, like an ox's yoke. He felt his spine start to sag. Anton pinched his neck. Couldn't break. "Shouldn't we wait for the witch to arrive?" The other elders fell into an uncomfortable silence. "Come again?" Elder Raspin, the most decrepit of the elders, asked. "Well, surely," Anton's voice trailed off. Surely we must wait for the witch, he said quietly. What would become of us if wild animals came first and carried her off? The other elders stared at the grand elder, their lips tight. Fortunately, nephew, he said quickly, leading the boy away, it has never been a problem. But, Anton said, pinching his neck again so hard he left a mark. But nothing, Gerlin said, a firm hand on the boy's back, striding quickly down the well-trodden path. And one by one, the elders filed out, leaving the baby behind. They left, knowing, all but Anson, that it was not a matter of if the child were eaten by animals, but rather that she surely would be. They left her knowing that there surely wasn't a witch. There never had been a witch. They were only a dangerous forest and a single road and a thin grip on the life that the elders had enjoyed for generations. The witch, that is, the belief in her, made for a frightened people, a subdued people, a compliant people who lived their lives in a saddened haze, with the clouds of their grief numbing their senses and dampening their minds. It was terribly convenient for the elders, encumbrated rule, unpleasant too, of course. They heard the child whimper as they trampled through the trees, but the whimpering soon gave way to the swamp, sighs and birdsong and the woody creaking of trees throughout the forest. And each elder felt as sure could be, that the child wouldn't live to see the morning, and that they would never hear her, never see her, never think of her again. They thought she was gone forever. They were wrong, of course. Okay, so this is going to be chapter 3, and this will probably be the last chapter. I don't know how far I'm going to read, so y'all are in luck that I'm reading 3 chapters in, because I'm getting hooked once again. So let's comment onto the chat bar. I want to see how you guys think about this story. What are you guys thinking so far? I want you guys to see. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you really think she gets eaten? I probably already told you. Come on, don't be shy. Type up in the chat bar. Or if you want to comment, let me know. How do I sound? Do I sound scratchy in my throat? If not, let me know. If so, also let me know. Oh, my nose. So, I don't know how far I'm going to get. I don't know. We'll see. All right, well, I'll go on to chapter 3. Chapter 3, in which a witch accidentally magics an infant. This is the good part. At the center of the forest was a small swamp, bubbly, sulphury, and noxious, fed and warmed by an underground, restlessly sleeping volcano and covered with a slick of slime whose color ranged from poison green to lightning blue to blood red, depending on the time of year. On this day, so close to the day of sacrifice in the Protectorate, or Star Child Day everywhere else, the green was beginning to inch its way toward blue. Swamp, standing right on the fringe of flowering reeds growing out of the muck, a very old woman leaned on a gnarled staff. She was short and squat, with a bit of bulbous around the belly. Hair had been pulled back into a thick braided knot, with leaves and flowers growing out of the thin gaps between the twisted plaits. Despite its cloud of annoyance, maintained a brightness in those aged eyes and a hint of a smile in that. From certain angles, she looked a bit like a large, good-tempered toad. Ouch. Her name was Jan. Bitch. You think you can hide from me, you ridiculous monster? She bellowed at the swamp. I don't know where you are. Resurface this minute and apologize. She pressed her expression into something closely resembling a scowl. Thank you. Though she had no real power over the monster himself. He was far too old to make that swamp cough him up if he were nothing more than a glob of phlegm in the back of the throat. Flick of her left hand and a jingle of her right knee. She attempted to scowl again. I mean it, she hollered. The thick water bubbled and swirled, and the large head of the swamp monster slurped out of the bluish green. He blinked one wide eye, and then the other, before rolling both toward the sky. "Don't you roll your eyes at me, young man," the old woman huffed. The monster muttered under his mouth, still half submerged in the thick waters of the swamp. "I am many centuries older than you." His wide lips blew a bubble in the algae slick. He thought, but who's counting? "I don't believe I like your tone." Jeanne puckered her wrinkled lips into a tight rosette in the middle of her face. The monster cleared his throat. "As the poet famously said, dear lady, I don't give a rat's Glark!" the witch shouted aghast. "Language!" "Apologies," Glark said mildly, though he really didn't mean it. He eased both sets of arms onto the muck at the shore, pressing each 7-fingered hand into the shine of the mud, himself up onto the grass. This used to be easier, he thought, though for the life of him he couldn't remember when. "Varian is over there by the vents, crying his eyes out, poor thing," Jeanne fumed. Glark sighed deeply. Jeanne thrust her staff onto the ground, sending a spray of sparks from the tip, surprising them both. "Sorry, I have an itch." She glared at the swamp monster. "And you were just being mean." She shook her head. "He's only a baby after all." "My dear Jeanne," Glark said, feeling a rumble deep in his chest, which he hoped sounded imposing and dramatic and not like someone who simply was coming down with a cold. "Older than you are, and it is high time." "Oh, you know what I mean. And anyway, I promised his mother." "For 500 years, give or take a decade or two, that dragonling has persisted in these delusions, fed and perpetuated by you, my dear. He is not simply an enormous dragon. There's no indication that he ever will be. There's no shame at all in being a perfectly tiny dragon. You know, he's an ancient and honorable species, filled with some of the greatest thinkers of the 7 ages. His mother was very clear," Jeanne began, but the monster interrupted her. "In any case, the time is long past that he knows his heritage and his place in the world. I've gone along with this fiction for far longer than I should have. But now—" Glurt pressed his forearms into the ground and eased his massive bottom under the curve of his spine, letting his heavy tail curl around the whole of him like a great, glistening snail's shell. He let the paunch of his belly sag over his folded legs. "I don't know, my dear. Something has shifted." A cloud passed over his damp face, but Jeanne shook her head. "Here we go again," she scoffed. "As the poet says, oh, ever-changed earth. Hang the poet, go apologize. Do it right now. He looks up to you." Jeanne glanced at the sky. "I must fly, my dear. I'm already late. Please, I am counting on you." Lumbered toward the witch, laid her hand on his great cheek. Though he was able to walk upright, he often preferred to move on all 6, or all 7s, with the use of his tail, and as an occasional limb, or all 5s, if he happened to be using one of his hands to pluck a particularly fragrant flower and bring it to his nose, or to collect rocks, or to play a haunting tune on a hand-carved flute. He pressed his massive forehead to Jeanne's tiny brow. "Please be careful," he said, his voice thick. "I've been beset of late by troubling dreams. I worry about you when you're gone." Jeanne raised her eyebrows, and Clerk leaned his face away with a low grumble. "Fine," he said. "I will perpetuate the fiction for our friend Varian. The path to truth is in the dreaming heart, the poet tells us." "That's the spirit," Jeanne said. She clucked her tongue and blew the monster a kiss, and she vaulted up and forward on her staff's fulcrum, sprinting away into the green. Despite the odd belief of the people of the Protectorate, the forest was not cursed at all, nor was it magical in any way. But it was dangerous. The volcano beneath the forest, low sloped and impossibly wide, was a tricky thing. It grumbled as it slept, while heating geysers till they burst and restlessly whirring at fissures until they grew so deep that no one could find the bottom. It boiled streams and cooked mud and sent waterfalls disappearing into deep pits, only to reappear miles away. There were vents that spewed foul old odors, and vents that spewed ash, and vents that seemed to spew nothing at all, until a person's lips and fingernails turned blue from bad air and the whole world started to spin. The only truly safe passage across the forest for an ordinary person was the road, which was situated on a naturally raised seam of rock that had smoothed over time. The road didn't alter or shift. It never grumbled. Unfortunately, it was owned and operated by a gang of thugs and bullies from the Protectorate. Jeanne never took the road. She couldn't abide thugs or bullies. And anyway, they charged too much. Or they did, last time she checked. It had been years since she had gone near it. Many centuries now. She made her own way instead, using a combination of magic and know-how and common sense. Her treks across the forest weren't easy by any means, but they were necessary. A child was waiting for her, just outside the Protectorate. A child whose very life depended on her arrival. And she needed to get there in time. For as long as Jeanne can remember, every year at about the same time, a mother from the Protectorate left her baby in the forest, presumably to die. Jeanne had no idea why, nor did she judge, but she wasn't going to let the poor little thing perish either. And so, every year, she traveled to that circle of sycamores and gathered the abandoned infant in her arms, carrying the child to the other side of the forest, to one of the free cities on the other side of the road. These were happy places, and they loved children. At the curve of the trail, the walls of Protectorate came into view. Jeanne's quick steps slowed to applaud. The Protectorate itself was a dismal place. Bad air, bad water, sorrow settling over the roofs of its houses like a cloud. She felt a yoke of sadness settle into her own bones. Just get the baby and go, Jeanne reminded herself as she did every year. Over time, Jeanne had started making certain preparations. A blanket woven of the softest lamb's wool to wrap the child and keep it warm, a stack of cloth to freshen a wet bottom, milk to fill an empty tummy, when the goat's milk ran out, as it inevitably did. The trek was long and milk is heavy. Jeanne did what any sensible witch would do. Once it was dark enough to see the stars, she reached up one hand and gathered starlight into her fingers. Like the silken thread of spider's webs, and is fed to the child. Every witch knows is a marvelous food for growing an infant. For a growing infant. Starlight collection takes a certain knack and talent. Magic, for starters. But the children eat it with gusto. They grow fat and sated and shining. It didn't take long for the free cities to treat the yearly arrival of the witch as something of a holiday. The children she brought with her, their skin and eyes bright with starlight, were seen as a blessing. Selecting the proper family for each child, making sure their characteristics and inclinations and senses of humor were a good match for the little life that she had carried for over the course of such a long journey. And the star children, as they were called, grew from happy infants to kind adolescents to gracious adults. They were accomplished, generous of spirit, and successful. When they died of old age, they died rich. When Jeanne arrived at the grove, there was no baby to be seen, but it was still early, and she was tired. She went to one of the craggy trees and leaned against it, taking in the loamy scent of its bark through the soft beak of her nose. A little sleep might do me good, she said aloud. Her too. The journey she'd been on was long and taxing, and the journey she was about to begin was longer and more taxing. Best to dig in and rest a while. And so, as she often did when she wanted some peace and quiet away from home, the witch Jeanne transformed herself into a tree. A craggy thing of leaf and lichen and deep-grooved bark, in texture to the other ancient sycamores standing guard over the small grove. And as a tree, she slept. She didn't hear the procession. She didn't hear the protestations of Anton, or the embarrassed silence of the council, or the gruff pontifications of Grand Elder Gerlund. She didn't even hear the baby when it cooed, or when it whimpered, or when it cried. But when the child opened its throat into a full-fledged wail, Jan woke up with a start. "Oh, my precious stars," she said in her craggy, barky, leafy voice, for she had not yet untransformed. "I didn't see you lying there." The baby was not impressed. She continued to kick and flail and howl and weep. Her face was ruddy and rageful, and her tiny hands curled into fists. The birthmark on her forehead darkened dangerously. "Just give us a second, my darling. Auntie Jan is going as fast as she's able." And she was. Transformation is a tricky business, even for one as skilled as Jan. Her branches began to wind back into her spine one by one, while the folds of bark were devoured bit by the folds of her wrinkles. Jan leaned on her staff and rolled back her shoulders a few times to release the kinks in her neck, one side and then the other. She looked down at the child, who had quieted some, and was now staring at the witch in the same way that she had stared at the Grand Elder, with a calm, probing, unsettling gaze. It was the sort of gaze that reached into the tight strings of the soul and but, like the strings of her heart, it nearly took the witch's breath away. "Bottle," Jan said, trying to ignore the harmonious ringing in her bones. "You need a bottle." And she searched her many pockets to find a bottle of goat's milk, ready and waiting for a hungry belly. With a flick of her ankle, Jan allowed a mushroom to enlarge itself enough to make a fine stool to sit upon. She let the child's warm weight rest against the soft lump of her midsection and waited. The crescent moon on the child's forehead dimmed to a pleasant shade of pink, and her dark curls framed her darker eyes. Her face shone like a jewel. She was calm and content with the milk, but her gaze still bored into Jan, like tree roots hooking into the ground. Jan grunted. "Well," she said, "there's no use looking at me like that. I can't bring you back to where you were. That's all gone now, so you might as well forget about it." "Oh, hush now." The child began to whimper. "Don't cry. You'll love the place where you're going. Once I decide which city to bring you to, they are all perfectly nice, and you'll love your new family too. I'll see to that." But just saying so made an ache in Jan's old heart, and she was, all at once, unaccountably sad. The child pulled away from the bottle and gave Jan a curious expression. The witch shrugged. "Well, don't ask me," she said. "I've no idea why you were left in the middle of the woods. I don't know why people do half the things they do, and I shake my head at the other half. But I'm certainly not going to leave you here on the ground to feed some common stoat. You got better things ahead of you, precious child." The word "precious" caught strangely in Jan's throat. She couldn't understand it. She cleared the debris from her old lungs and gave the girl a smile. She leaned towards the baby's face and pressed her lips against the child's brow. She always gave the babies a kiss. At least, she was pretty sure she did. The child's scalp smelled like bread dough and clabbery milk. Jan closed her eyes only for a moment and shook her head. "Come now," she said, her voice thick. "Let's go see the world, shall we?" And, wrapping the baby securely in a sling, Jan marched into the woods, whistling as she walked. And she would have gone straight to the Free Cities. She certainly intended to. But there was a waterfall that the baby would like, and there was a rocky outcropping with a particularly fine view, and she noticed herself wanting to tell the baby stories and sing her songs, and as she told and as she sang, Jan's step grew slower and slower and slower. Jan blamed the onset of old age, and the crick in her back, and the fussiness of the child, but none of those things were true. Jan found herself stopping again and again, just to take yet another opportunity to unsling the baby and stare into those deep black eyes. Each day, Jan's path wandered further afield. It looped, double-backed, and wiggled. Her traverse through the park and through the forest, normally almost as straight as the road itself, was a twisty, windy mess. At night, once the goat's milk was exhausted, Jan gathered the gossamer threads of starlight on her fingers, and the child ate gratefully. and each mouthful of stardust, each deepened the darkness in the child's gaze. Whole universes burned in those eyes, galaxies upon galaxies. After the 10th night, the journey that usually took only 3.5 days was less than a quarter done. The waxing moon rose earlier each night, though Jeanne did not pay it much mind. She reached up and gathered her starlight, and didn't heed the moon. There is magic in starlight, of course. This is well known. But because the light travels such a long distance, the magic in it is fragile and diffused, stretched into the most delicate of threads. There is enough magic in starlight to content a baby and fill its belly. And in large enough quantities, starlight can awaken the best in that baby's heart and soul and mind. It is enough to bless, but not to end magic. Moonlight, however, that is a different story. Moonlight is magic. Ask anyone you like. Jeanne couldn't take her eyes off the baby's eyes. Suns and stars and meteors, the dust of nebulae, big bangs and black holes and endless space. Big and fat and shining. Jeanne reached up. She didn't look at the sky. Moon. Did she notice how heavy the light felt on her fingers? Did she notice how sticky it was? How sweet? She waved her fingers above her head. She pulled her hand down when she couldn't hold it up anymore. Sorry, the page got stuck. Did she notice the weight of magic swinging from her wrist? She told herself she didn't. She said it was over and over and over until it felt true. And the baby ate and ate and ate. And suddenly she shuddered and buckled in Jeanne's arms. She cried out once, and very loud. And then she gave a contented sigh, falling instantly asleep, pressing herself into the softness of the witch's belly. Jeanne looked up at the sky, feeling the light of the moon falling across her face. "Oh, dear me," she whispered. The moon had grown full without her noticing, and powerfully magic. One sip would have done it, and the baby had, well, more than one sip. In any case, the facts of the matter were as clear as the moon sitting brightly on the tops of the trees. The child had become enmagicked. There was no doubt about it, and now things were more complicated than they had been before. Jeanne settled herself cross-legged on the ground and laid the sleeping child in the crook of her knee. There would be no waking her, not for hours. Jeanne ran her fingers through the girl's black curls. Even now, she could feel the magic pulsing under her skin, each filament insinuating itself between cells, through tissues, filling up her bones. In time, she'd become unstable. Not forever, of course, but Jeanne remembered enough from the magicians who raised her long ago that rearing a magic baby is no easy matter. Her teachers were quick to tell her as much, and her keeper, Zosimos, mentioned it endlessly. Infusing magic into a child is akin to putting a sword in the hand of a toddler. So much power and so little sense. "Can't you see how you age me so, girl?" he had said over and over. And it was true. Magical children were dangerous. She certainly couldn't leave the child with just anyone. "Well, my love," she said, "aren't you more troublesome by half?" The baby breathed deeply through her nose. A tiny smile quivered in the center of her rosebud mouth. Jeanne felt her heart leap within her. She cuddled the baby close. "Luna," she said, "your name will be Luna, and I will be your grandmother, and we will be a family." And just by saying so, Jeanne knew it was true. The words hummed in the air between them, stronger than magic. She stood, slid the baby back into the sling, and began the long journey toward home, wondering how on earth she'd explain it to Clerk. And that is where we will stop, because my voice is about to crack. So now we've read 3 chapters in, So in chapter 4, we will have In Which It Was Just a Dream, which is a pretty short chapter too. Then we can go into 5, and then we can go into 6. So, alrighty. Alright, so let me hear y'all. What do y'all think about the story so far? Be honest. Don't be shy. Let me know how you thought of the book. I found it really good. Well, that's me, of course, but because I mean I've read it further than anybody else, I think. But I felt when I haven't read the story aloud to myself before, so I wanted to know how you guys thought I did, or how did it sound to you? Did it sound interesting? Was it cool? Let me know. Okay, I'm even gonna type in here. I really actually think this is a really good book. I mean, an elementary school book and the book fair for elementary schoolers. I really do enjoy it. And um, now, I guess now we know that the main new female character, Luna, will be pretty powerful, probably even maybe more powerful than Jan. And so yeah. Jan, I think, also play an important part of the story too. I mean, I think she does where I'm at right now, but her story will be important too. Well, and so is Glurk, of course. Glurk, in my mind, I still can't figure out what he looks like. In my mind, even when I described him and all, I still can't think what he looks like. So, that annoy me all day. I can imagine what the Varian looks like because he's in the title, I think. Is he in the title? I think so, yeah. I can imagine Luna. I think that's why I fell in love with this book. I saw the cover and I just fell in love with it. And then I got this book called Wonder, and then, because, well, it's from my school, but I bought it for myself. And then I got The Great Shelby Holmes. Yes, like Sherlock Holmes. Don't judge. But anyway, so yeah, that was the first 3 chapters to The Girl Who Drank the Moon. And tomorrow, since I don't have to really go to school, but I have to work still, but tomorrow, never quite where I'm at. Teenagers, huh? Well, middle schoolers, but anyway, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about again? I can't remember. Um, la, 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 la. What the frick was I talking about? Man, I lost my train of thought. Can y'all help me? What was I talking about earlier? I can't remember. Frick. What was I talking about? Thank you, family, for making me forget what I was talking about. I don't know. I'll figure it out next time. I'm gonna go because my battery's low, and charging and talking is not gonna really help it. Anyway, so let me know if you guys want me to continue the story. I bet you guys do, but let me know, and I will. Because, I mean, we're already 3 chapters in, and it sounds pretty good. I think when you reach the chapter 4 and 5 and 6, you'll really get into it because it goes much further then, I think. Because as the story progresses, you'll see how the characters develop, and I'm thinking it's really cool already from what I've read. I can't speak English. English ain't my first language. I'm just kidding, it is. Anyway, so if you like this video, hit that like button down there. Oh, yeah, yeah. Shout out to Shorty. Please listen to our mom, please. Sorry if I'm silent. It's just I can hear my family yelling. Mm. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that, people. Just having to get on my sister for not listening. I know I shouldn't be ranting, but to everybody out there, and especially middle school, no offense to it's not everybody, but life here is a little difficult. I know, I think around this age, I know I've probably been in her shoes before, but you're not always the center of attention. You can't always get what you want, and you obviously, can't boss people around. And see how she acting. I think we kind of spoiled her a little too much at a young age, maybe. Now that I think about it. And I know she does this to anger mom. She knows she can. She just says no, but we all know she does it on purpose. If she can't get her way, if it doesn't go her way, or it's gonna be nothing at all. Now I asked Grandma, was I like this at her age? And she said, no. You had your moments, but no. I was like, well, oh boy. Can't wait till high school. Oh, Lord. Good thing I'll be in college. Well, I'm already in college, but I love her at times, but she just can be a big old drama queen. If you had to hear what I always hear from my bedroom, because I'm not that far away from her, you would probably agree with me. And Shirley, if you're watching this, I am not sorry for what I said, because it is true. It makes me really upset how she's acting now. Makes me really upset. Because I know she can do better. I mean, her great. I'm not going to go too much detail. But Shirley, if you're watching this, I know you can do better. I really do. So stop getting everybody angry and just do what you have to do. Trust me, you'll be a lot happier. And then people will leave you alone. Alright, well, that's all I gotta say. I'm now freaking depressed thanks to my sister. Okay, well, if you like this video again, like I said, leave a thumbs up and comment if you want me to continue the series. Okay, bye-bye.